Hi, and welcome to Off the Air, where we take a look at canceled television series. My name's Dylan.
I'm Mehmet, and today we're going to be talking about Freaks and Geeks. So, what did you think of the show?
I liked it. I thought they really built a great foundation for a show like this to be built on. They've got the A plot that follows Lindsay and her friends, and then you've got the B plot that follows Sam and his friends, and, you know, they interweave for most of the episodes. They interact in interesting ways. The whole show itself, the tone of it, I thought was interesting because this is a genre that's done to death. A high school drama show, everyone has seen at least one. It's a very difficult genre to tackle because it's so hard to have an original take on it, and I think they really succeeded because they actively tried to subvert all of your expectations for a show like that, and they shifted the emphasis away from the kind of Dawson's Creek, Degrassi style cast that you're used to.
90210, I think, more.
Oh, 90210, yeah. It definitely runs counter to all of those, both in terms of the aesthetic and in terms of the storytelling. It opens centered on the jocks and cheerleaders, right? Mm-hmm. There's like the young couple talking in the stands. Oh, I can't control how much I love you or whatever the bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then it goes down into our cast, and then you meet the freaks first.
Yeah, right.
And that's very much the thesis statement of the show. It's saying, we're not this, we're this. We're not centering on the popular kids. These are shallow, empty figureheads that we're going to use as a prop for our characters to rail against. Mm-hmm. They employ tropes and archetypes when they're appropriate, but they find a way to kind of,
and I think that when you're making a high school show, there's some characters that are just inherent to that environment. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a bully. There's going to be a teacher who's an asshole, a teacher who's going to relate to the main character. Those are unavoidable, but it's the angles that you can put on those characters of what really develops them. Like, what do you think about taking those stereotypes past, their initial use?
Oh,
because
totally.
Nobody's just used once.
And they looked at every character they introduced, even the minor ones, and they thought, how can we put a twist on them?
Right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you in the hospital. I was just goofing on you. And it's not like you guys have ever been nice to me. I remember, like in the 4th grade, I used to think you guys were, really cool. And this one time you brought a model of the Saturn V in for show and tell, and I asked you guys if I could shoot off rockets with you, and you said no.
They did a really good job at keeping it basic, keeping it bare bones, and I know that I read that Paul Feig and Judd Apatow, they told Russ also, Brooke, the DOP, we don't want this to be over elaborate, we don't want any crazy lighting setups, everyone doesn't have to look perfect. This is supposed to be a suburb in Detroit, and it's the early 80s, so the wardrobe is excellent, the sets are great, they're simple, the rooms, all the kids' rooms, everything, that's all believable. The big motto I think I took away from this is less is more, which is very much the style that I like. They let the important parts of production carry it. They're not
viewing this through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, of course.
This is high school as they saw
Even though inherently there's a lot of nostalgia, and I think that's why a lot of people like this show. And it's part of the reason why it gained success post-cancellation. They focused a lot on the storytelling, and they didn't try too hard to cover anything up, I would say, in the look and in the editing. The editing is super tight. They have so much confidence in the performances that it's not constant back and forth, jumping from place to place to place. They let scenes play out nicely. And a lot of the time, they'll let the music drive the scene. There's some scenes with absolutely no dialogue, but it's all driven by music, which is another good proponent of the show, and I'm sure is what they spent most of their budget on. Not surprised at all that they got canceled because they've got some really good tunes there, and directing things.
Toward the end, they mentioned Pink Floyd, but that's a later episode, and they don't play Pink Floyd in it, so I'm like, they ran out of money.
Yeah.
They ran out of music money, for sure.
You can't blame them because I feel like they had to do it authentic. They had to really, if they were going to front the style and the attitude of this era, they had to include, the kind of music that drove it. That was a big part of the 80s, and especially a big part of a young person's life. That's how some characters define themselves, really. More so the Freaks, but I'll still say that it's a driving proponent of the entire series.
Look, these teachers want us to work, you know? And I say, fine, I'll work. But you gotta let me do the kind of work that I want to do. And for me, Lindsay, it's my drum kit, man. This is my passion, you know? This is the essence of who I am now.
One thing I wanted to mention real quick is the element of conflict that the writers, they really stress that even between minor characters. They give everybody something to kind of butt heads about, and it really makes it interesting. Mm-hmm. Even in episode 5, you had Russo, the guidance counselor, and Kauchevsky, their hard-nosed math teacher. They have a scene together. Those are two fairly minor characters that, I mean, you kind of care about. You see them. But mostly they exist in the context of the main cast, their interactions with the freaks or the geeks. And that's the only lens you can really view them through. But they're given this scene where you can kind of see what tensions can build between people who aren't the main focus of the show. And that's really conducive to good storytelling, because then it broadens the world, and I think they do it really effectively.
Now let's be patient. Try and hear everyone out. Let's be a team. We don't actually know that anyone cheated.
I do.
But fine. Unfortunately, an anonymous note isn't sufficient proof.
There was no note.
There's no note.
No. I use this as a ploy sometimes to get a confession.
How do you expect to have real relationships with these kids if you're lying to them?
Let me tell you something. I knew kids like Desario in Vietnam. Those were the kind of kids that got you killed.
One example I would bring up of the A plot and B plot finally interweaving would be the Halloween episode. Lindsay and her friends go out to egg trick-or-treaters from the back of a car. Sam and his friends are their unintended victims. And that permanently changes the relationship between our two protagonists. And this is where Freaks and Geeks sets itself apart, with the resolution of that conflict. At the end of the episode, there's no hug moment. There's no emotional reset like you would see in any other show of this kind, where they don't want the audience to leave without some feeling of warmth. Oh, they're still a family.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
That character can go through that kind of change.
Exactly.
Thanks for not turning me in. I'm really sorry, you know that, don't you? Nobody thinks you're cool, you know. Trust me, I know.
The exec team, I believe Garth Ancier and Scott Sassa, they wanted more victories. There are few victories in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. But we need to make a distinction between victories and emotional catharsis, because those often get confused. We as viewers often mistake victories for catharsis. We see the nerdy guy get with the hot girl, that, you know, like typical male writer fantasy bullshit. And we feel good, but it's a fantasy.
And it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
It's tuning in once a week to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And see some characters succeed.
It in no way reflects reality, and it doesn't change the character fundamentally.
Yeah.
In order for us to associate more with the character, they need to fail. You learn more when a character fails than when they succeed, because that's the catalyst for change, and that's what people connect with.
You see that a lot with the Freaks during the series, and even one of my favorite characters towards the end, Nick. If he were to go into that drumming audition, which he had, rip a quick solo, and Neil Peart comes in and high fives him, and John Bonham, gives him a handshake, it would have been stupid. It would have been a temporary relief, but instead, he can walk away from that learning something.
And it would break your immersion.
Yeah,
You're like,
of course.
this is, come on. He's 18 years old.
Yeah.
You know?
And thanks to that, he got to, rip around the dance floor and cut a rug with his sweet John Travolta moves. Sure. And he gets Lizzie Kaplan by the end, so not so bad.
That's a little bit writer fantasy.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But it's my
Yeah. So I feel we need to talk about why it got canceled, why Freaks and Geeks is now off the air. They premiere it on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. This is NBC's reasoning. It's a high school show. As everyone knows, high school students are just settling in with their cup of tea at around 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, right? That's what we did.
Yep.
And in bed by 9, so it's perfect. It's a 1 hour time slot. Not only do they premiere it on a Saturday night at 8 p.m., they take a 3-week hiatus right afterward for the MLB playoffs. That was the other thing, schedule shuffling. They kept moving the night it was airing on, which is always a sign that a show is going to tank. But they didn't even give it a chance. Normally, you'd have at least the first 3 episodes air on the same night in the same time slot. They didn't even do that for them. And then they try to start so the creators, they try to start a website to let people know when the show is playing. And they ask NBC, hey, do you mind sharing that site? So, get it out to the viewership. And they said, no, we don't want to share the URL because we might lose viewers to that thing called the internet. And we don't
Imagine
want people,
that, viewers going to the internet.
All right, fuck, God knows, they should ever find out about that.
Of course, this is around the time where there was no backup plan. There's no business model for life of a show after its cancellation. When you're done, you are done. Especially on NBC, it's not coming back. It doesn't care.
They're not going to syndicate a canceled show, and
they don't care how many angry letters they get by pigeon. I don't know what they did.
Or whatever they did.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
I don't know. What are you gonna do?
So now we'll move on to the highlight reel portion where we bring up specific examples from the show. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to gloss over this part. Just a heads up. What are your highlights, Emmett?
I got 3 scenes that really stood out to me, all for sort of the same reason, and it's one of the aspects I really like about this show is in the editing they have a lot of trust in their performances and their music and stylization carrying it. One scene that if you've seen the show, I'm sure you'd agree, really stands out is when we see Martin Starr at home by himself playing Bill. He's watching a Gary Shandling special on TV, and all it is just a song playing throughout, and it's a real good insight into that character and just how introverted and alone he can feel sometimes, but still manages to have a good time.
You see what he's connecting with,
exactly,
and that adds to his character, for sure.
And it says so much more about a character when you can do something like that than have some, drawn-out storyline or even like exposition or melodrama.
Maybe.
There's another scene that just shows off. I mean, it's pretty basic, but it shows off the great comedic timing of the editing in the show, and that's when Sam loses his towel outside the boys' change room. Has to streak through the school naked, which is every kid's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's very like Benny
literally.
Hill.
It's literally everyone's nightmare.
He ends up getting a lot of street cred, which is a bit of a wish fulfillment thing.
It is and it isn't because it doesn't last.
No, it doesn't.
And it's
last.
kind of it's an inversion on an expectation.
But yeah, just the way they blocked that scene and everything, I thought was very well done.
Hey Sam, I heard you streaked. Way to go!
Hey, shut up!
All right, Sam.
My highlights, I've only got 2. One would be Daniel Desario, his episode, when Lindsay helps him cheat on a test. And he goes into this speech, like she's initially resistant. She doesn't want to do it. And he's running every route in the Daniel playbook. He's trying to be seductive. He's trying to be a little bit, friendly and coercive a little bit. And once he's exhausted those options, he goes into this monologue. And you're watching through it, and your heart's breaking for the guy.
What do you think? I want to be terrible at school? You think I like it? I wish I was as smart as you. I wish it all came easy to me. But it doesn't. No, when I was in 6th grade, they told us when we got to junior high, we'd be either in track 1, track 2, or track 3. Track 1's the smart kids, track 2's the normal kids, track 3 is the dumb kids. And what do you think I got? How do you think it feels to be told you're dumb when you're 11 years old?
Your kind of rationality has been worn down because you've shut down all of his usual advances, and then you see this whole other dimension to his character, and you feel it, and you're going on that journey with Lindsay, and you feel terrible, and then, of course, she helps him cheat. Fast forward to they get caught. They're brought into the office, and they're trying to sort out the situation, And when he's confronted by the teachers, he goes into the same monologue, and she starts laughing.
How you think it feels to be told that you're dumb in ink when you're 11 years old?
She's laughing because, oh my God, it's just another route he's playing.
It's another ruse.
He's just another layer to his facade.
That makes me like him more, though.
Exactly.
And what I like about that is it doesn't invalidate the monologue. That's still a great scene.
Here's why that worked. It's because both times you're with Lindsay.
Yeah.
If James Franco doesn't sell that, if that monologue isn't well written enough, you don't buy it the first time, and you're just annoyed by the second time.
Yeah.
But that 1-2 punch, that was incredible.
No, that's a good highlight, yeah.
The other highlight I wanted to mention is the new girl at school subplot. New girl comes to town, same grade as the geeks, and initially she's there sitting at their table in the cafeteria. And they sit down and they get to know each other, and of course they all fall in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that play out. You know, they're joking around about who should get to date her and all this stuff.
They start fighting over her and everything.
No. I'm asking her out. She clearly likes me best.
How do you know?
You see the way she looks at me? She can barely contain herself.
You just happen to be looking at her every time she's thinking about me.
But you see, you know, it's ebbing away. Those immutable laws of high school social dynamics, you know, it's like gravity. She's being pulled toward the popular kids, and they can feel it happening, and they long for her company so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. This show's great in times like this because they find a way to walk that line between events playing out cynically and events playing out fantastically. And this one hits that sweet spot because by the end of the episode, she's literally going to sit down with the popular kids, and they give her that parting advice and just say, look, those kids don't take the time to get to know everybody, so they're not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful around them. They're accepting the fact that it was never going to last, but there's just the right amount of longing on the boy's part and just the right amount of resolution for that arc, for it to be believable and compelling.
Guys, I'm just sitting 3 tables over. I'm not moving back to Florida.
Well, you know.
See you in biology class?
So this is the segment where we talk about our 3 stars. That includes the most valuable performer, the best minor character, and the most improved character throughout the series. Who's your first? Who's your most valuable MVP?
Martin Starr. Late draft pick, great hands, a lot of reach. He hits the ground running. Like as soon as the series starts, he's the first character to have scenes alone. That's how much confidence they have in him. You put the camera on him, he's just funny.
That was my MVP too.
You cut me off mid-funk.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, you don't get a lot of legroom playing a character like that. Like if out of the geeks, he's the geek. I mean, the guy's an all-time loser. But I mean, you don't really have a lot of legroom to be funny when the point of your character is to be laughed at. But he still manages to do that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And not only that, he's not just he's a butt of a few jokes, but he's given the largest dramatic turn. With the subplot, it was episode 14, I believe, when Mr. Frederick starts dating his mother.
Mom,
and you see a whole other side to him. And his interactions with Vicky, Like, he's a really insightful character.
Yeah.
He's really well written. I can't think of a bad scene with him in it.
So cool! You should have seen yourself spin out.
The ice cream is mine.
What is it, Bill?
I hate you.
You what?
You always have to win. All you care about is winning. You don't care at all about other people's feelings.
Yeah, Martin Starr, MVP, for sure. Best minor character.
Oh, Joe Flaherty is Harold.
Yeah,
As the
really?
dad. I mean,
Stanley
it's
Kubrick,
just
you mean?
yeah, Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Sorry. First of all, great filmography, but
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this,
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just he's the most believable of the parents. He's the best scenes. He's the best actor, I would say, throughout the whole series, which isn't
Really?
fair because I mean, there's a lot of kids and teenagers and young adults, but I would say he carried every scene he was in. He has to be one note sometimes, sort of stern father. But
Yeah.
he plays it really
But
well.
it's
Can't
also,
fault him.
he's got great timing. He's Second
Yeah.
City TV.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I mean,
he's American,
he's a
but
natural.
he's Canadian.
Yeah.
He's American, but he's Canadian.
Yeah.
No, he's fantastic.
And I followed a couple of my buddies to the red light district.
Your father's first time wasn't special, and he's always regretted it.
It was the worst $5 I've ever spent. And I wish I could get that $5 back.
Best minor for me would be Harris. I loved Harris. The
Oh,
long-haired one, like because every school had a guy like that, someone who is wise beyond his years, and he's like this sage figure.
But he's not
you know?
quite part of the geeks.
Exactly. Well, he is. Here's the thing. He's mortal. You'd almost
Yeah.
think he's like this Tom Bombadil, Omar from The Wire character who's kind of removed from the regular rules of the show. Like, he breaks realism with some of his insights and how the other characters talk to him. Like, Daniel Desario is just like talking. It's a little implausible, but I like it.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and he's a relief when you
Yeah.
see him. And the way they kind of make him mortal is the Halloween episode when they get jumped by Alan and his buddies, and he just forfeits the candy immediately when they're harassing him. I love it. He's just like, yeah, here you go. That's it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he's part of the high school ecosystem. He's not removed from it. He was really really compelling, and I liked all the scenes he was in.
Ah, yes, interesting problem. Freshman bullies. He's obviously acting out his insecurities in a new environment. If you can disconnect emotionally, it's really quite sad. In his own way, he's reaching out for a friend.
So, what do we do?
I would recommend the Cressman conundrum.
What the hell is that?
Tom Cressman, my freshman tormentor. The idea was, if you fight your bully, afterwards, whether you win or lose, they'll tend to leave you alone.
Did it work?
He broke my tailbone, but the results were effective.
For my most improved, I would say Nick.
Yeah,
I liked him
okay.
a lot towards the end. At the start, he's very weird. He kind of makes just like off-color comments.
Mhm.
He has that weird scene with Lindsay where he does her bra. So he's like kind of an awkward dude. He really comes into his own towards the end. And I feel like just Jason Segel as an actor starts coming out of his shell more, because that's the big thing with this series.
Yeah.
I don't know if they shot
And
it
he's
chronologically.
the big thing with this series.
I don't know if they shot it chronologically, but it's almost like the actors are worse at the start towards the end.
You guys don't care, you know? Look, maybe you guys are just screwing around, but I want us to be good, you know? I'm tired of sucking at everything in my life, and I want to nail that audition, all right? But we're not going to nail that audition unless we play the songs over and over and over again until they're perfect. All right, Daniel, so can we just play the song right once? Please?
It's like, I mean, they must have shot in some kind of chronological sequence, because towards the end, even Seth Rogen comes into his own.
But they definitely shot it chronologically, yeah. Because it's back when, they didn't just shoot everything and then just go, all right, send it all off to Netflix. No, it's funny you mentioned Seth Rogen, because he's Ken Miller is my most
His name's Seth
improved.
Rogen.
His name's Seth Rogen, yeah. No, his name's Dale Denton from Pineapple Express. This is a prequel series. Again, same thing. He starts off one note, and you have to wait a long time. I think they just didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah,
for the
I don't
first
think
part
they
of the
knew
series.
he was any good, honestly.
They didn't know he was funny. Well, I mean, they knew he was funny because he was doing stand-up, but he was fairly young. He was the age Ken Miller is, almost. And you could see he kind of, he comes into his own. They start writing for his voice more.
You start to hear the deep grumblings of the
the emergence
starts coming out.
I don't think there's a Rogen laugh in it.
Oh, there's one towards the end that
Is
you
there?
can really tell. Yeah, it's the first iteration.
It's Seth Rogen,
the original
beginnings.
What'd you think? Well, I thought I would hate it, but I kind of liked it. Really? No.
So our final segment is the 3 R's. Do you want to recommend it? Do you want to renew it? Or do you want to recycle it?
Yeah.
Throw it in the trash, throw it in the recycle, and forget about it.
I would renew it.
Really?
When you renew it on this show, you're going to have to talk about what you would do with the characters. So I would have Lindsay, do the tour with the Grateful Dead, but the sports megastore, that would open and Harold's business would suffer, and then she would come back and they would find out she wasn't at the academic summit, and therefore kind of jeopardizing her family's future in that sense, and that creates a little bit of conflict because she wasn't there to kind of help out.
Jesus.
Anyway. I would have Nick be basically forced to join the army, and he would be a deserter, and he would just be written off the show because I feel like they were just throwing him around, just trying to see what would happen. I just didn't think he belonged in the show anymore. I would have Sam become the new focus of the show because it felt like he hit more emotional ranges, and I felt he changed more as a protagonist. And because he had more to go through still, you could kind of, you could riff on him. It's like, you can kind of put him anywhere. He could be your wild man protagonist and throw him in different situations.
How realistic are we being with their ages now? Because he looks like fucking Bruce Wayne.
Oh, no, dude. Well, you recast it.
Recast.
You'd have to recast it.
In the future, we'll be clearer for recast.
Exactly. Well, it's the 4 R's now. It's either recast, renew, whatever.
Yeah.
With Daniel. Daniel's the one I really wanted to talk about. So, Kim's father would go too far one night because he was clearly like an abusive guy, and he would either put her or her mother in the hospital.
Jesus
and it would play
Christ,
out.
man.
I know, it's like a dark future. Just let it go there, it's fine. And she would move in with Daniel and help take care of his dad and become a more sympathetic character. Like, create a little more
And
tension.
then a
Maybe
plane crashes into her
Yeah,
house.
exactly. Desario would find an aptitude for fixing cars because we saw that, when he was tinkering with the projector.
film equipment.
Yeah, he's got the instruction manual out, did it of his own volition, and you always see him working on cars. Maybe he's a mechanic. He already dresses like a mechanic in half the episodes. I thought maybe they were trying to go there because, I don't know, because I feel like he needs a win. And the other guy I think needs a win is Russo. Because Russo you feel for, especially when, he's got that moment where his keys are locked in the car and his usual facade breaks, his usual demeanor breaks, and you see that this is a broken down guy who's been an underdog his whole life and is still a good person. Give him something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's like, a big band comes into town and his band Feedback opens up for him. And you just give him one moment where he's not just shit on and ignored by the characters.
Yeah, but you've already gone dark with everyone else. You might as well just have him.
No, because it's like he doesn't have it coming at all. And it's just, you can only kick the dog so many times before it's just too depressing.
Right.
Give him a little bit of a victory. The other ones, I'm trying to give him some conflict to work with. Anyway, that's what I would do with the show. What would you do with the show?
I would recommend it. It's all right.
Okay, all right, that's our show for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to leave one of your suggestions, would you renew it? Would you recast it? Would you recycle it? Would you never watch this show again?
Yeah, do you want us to stop?
Yeah, let us know in the comments, and we'll ignore you either way, pretty much.
All right, until next time.
Okay.